To begin making a mat, you'll need a loom, the side rods, and 2 balls of bags chained together. Start by sliding a rod into the eyelets on one side of the loom. Leaving the bent end of the rod facing up will make it easier to remove the rods later when the mat is completed. Repeat with the other rod on the opposite side of the loom. You'll start with 1 ball and can set the other side for now. Take the end of the bags and loop it around the end of the rod. Take the bags down the loom and back 3 times. On the 3rd loop, you'll start wrapping around the wooden pegs, keeping the chain snug on each turn. Continue going back and forth around the pegs until you get to the end of the chained bags. When you run out, get your second chained ball. Push the new end through the opening of the last bag. Loop the new end around the ball and pull the knot tight, making sure both sides of the bag stay straight or even in length. Continue wrapping around the wooden pegs until you get to the other rod. Again, turn the end of the rod up and wrap the chain 3 more times on the end. After the 3rd wrap, look for a knot along the chain line. Unwind the ball past the knot in the line. Untie any extra bags from the ball. Using the knot in the line, open the 2 ends, push the end through, and tie off the end of the chain. Trim any extra material with scissors and save the scrap for pillow stuffing. Prepare for weaving by tying 2 bags together to make what I call a part. Tie 5 to 10 parts to have on hand and ready. Refer to video 2, Prepare Bags for Weaving, for the 2 methods you can use to tie the 2 bags together. Take 1 part and tie it around the rod and 3 strands of the chained bags. Using the pegs as a guide, weave under 2 strands of the chained bags and then over 2 strands of the chained bags. Continue weaving under and over 2 strands at a time. If the ends pop off the pegs, put them back on. They'll stay in place once you have a couple rows of weaving done. Tie another part or 2 more bags on as needed. Again, put the bags back on the pegs if they pop off. Pull the first row tight, as well as snugging it towards the pegs. Wrap around the rod and weave another row back the other direction. This row will weave opposite of the previous row, so weave over where the previous row wove under and vice versa. Weave back and forth until you have 5 rows or so. Remember to pull the row tight, as well as snugging the row against the previous row. Now we'll go to the other end of the loom. On the other end, we'll still weave over 2 strands of the chain, but we need to weave in between pegs differently, so our weave will cross over the same 2 strands as the opposite end of the loom. Use the opposite end of the loom as a reference by following down 2 strands of the chain. We'll want to weave over these same 2 strands. Again, take one part and tie it around the rod and 3 strands of the chained bags. Find your first 2 strands that line up with the opposite end and begin weaving. As you near the other rod, use the opposite end of the loom again for a reference of which 2 strands to weave over. Tighten the row and snug it towards the pegs. Wrap around the rod and use the opposite end for a weaving reference one last time. At this point, you're ready to weave from both ends of the loom towards the middle. If you have different colored grocery bags, feel free to create patterns as you weave. On your last row in the middle, weave from the right side towards the middle, and from the left side toward the middle, ending where you have about the same amount of length on your bag ends. Tie off the two ends in the middle using a square knot and/or a granny knot. Trim the excess and save the clippings for pillow stuffing. Remove the rods from both sides of the loom. This is where facing the bent ends up in the beginning comes in handy. Remove the bag ends from the pegs. I sometimes leave the last one on the metal peg. Tie the bag ends together by pulling the next loop through the middle of the previous loop. Again, pull the next loop through the middle of the previous loop. Continue towards the end, popping the last loop off the end if needed. Take two bags and tie them in the loop on the end. Weave the bags back along the ends you just looped together. Pull tight as needed. At the end, pull any slack tight. Notice the knot at the opposite end has pulled into the weave a bit. Check that the end is rounded off how you like it. Tie off the bag at the end at least twice. If you have enough length, tie it again. Clip the scrap and keep it for pillows. Repeat this process on the opposite end to finish. Your mat is now complete. Well done.